Hey, um, I have the bottom border to put on, but I have the border put on, the first border set, whatever you want to call it. Um, got those done, and now I want to show you guys how to make this block. And this block will be a border top and bottom, and it goes, I'm anxious to get the next one made because this one goes like this, and then the next one goes 180 degrees different. So the dark will make a V, and the pink or magenta will make a V, and it'll just be a continuous like that. Another tile seen in Italy. So I am going to cut. I'm sorry, I'm a little late and a little out of breath. This has been a crazy morning. My machine is gone. My little featherweight is here because the tension on my other one just wouldn't. It was getting worse and worse and worse. So my engineer. Oh, thank you. My engineer, mechanical, whatever husband had me order 2 bobbin cases for that machine, and he thinks he knows how to fix it. And I gather from what I read online that this is a very common problem. I checked with Laura this morning, and she has the same problem. So all of these pieces that I'm cutting, I need to make 16 blocks. And I don't know why I'm cutting this in a single layer anyway, or a double layer. I wanted to show you really how fast cutting can go. And so anyway, so I was pretty much ready, got the machine up and sewed a seam and was happy with the featherweight. And I was just finishing cutting these strips, and I heard a cat fight. I have my little Miss Bingo in here with me today. Her big sister is just really, really mean to her. And in the last couple weeks, her big sister has been coming to the shop and sleeping on the front porch, and occasionally comes in for some loving. And Bingo used to live in the shop here with me full time. And then when we left, the first part of the year, when we left for, what were we gone? About 2 months, 2.5 months, she decided, she got lonesome. My caretaker isn't much of a cat guy. So he would just come in, make sure she was fed and clean her litter box and pet her once and be on his way, which is fine. I understand. And my girlfriend would come in several times a week just to come in and love her a little bit. But she wanted to go outside, and she likes to hang around up at the barn. But the problem with that is we hear coyotes up there, and it scares me. And she's just a little tiny thing. So then I brought her home. When we got home, I brought her home, and she was our house cat for quite a while. And then I would let her out, and she would just hang around and come in, spend the evenings or nights in the house. And then all of a sudden, she decided she wanted to be an outside cat. But her big sister kept her away from us pretty much. Very jealous, I think. I don't know. Anyway, Lexi hangs around outside, or Lexi, the mean one, has been hanging around in here or on the front porch. And Bingo's been down by the basement, and this morning they got into it and Lexi chased Bingo towards the barn again. So I went after Bingo, sent Lexi home, and I fell, and it just, anyway, it's been a crazy morning. So what I'm doing here is I need all the pieces for this block are cut at 2 3/4 inches wide. So the cutting instructions tell you how many strips to cut and how wide to cut them. It's like, this is the background fabric. I needed to cut 1 2 3/4 inch wide by width of fabric, 4 4 3/4 inch wide by the width of fabric, and 1 3 by 3. So these are my 4 by 4 3/4. So then everything gets cut at 2 3/4 inches wide. So I'm cutting through 8 layers. And when I cut all of these strips like this, all the blocks will be cut for that fast. So it doesn't have to be super, super exact. Usually when you're cutting this many layers, it'll move a little bit on you. Unless, this is when I like to have at least 2 fingers on the cutting mat holding the ruler in place. And it helps keep it from sliding. And you want a good sharp blade. This is, I just didn't put any pressure at the beginning. Okay, so that's all of those pieces. And then this is the 3 by 3. I'm going to fold this over so that I've got 4 layers here. And we're making 16 blocks. So at 2 3/4, you get 16 pieces, 2 3/4 inch pieces. So that works out perfect. This one I might have to, from some leftover of the big piece, I may have to, what's left? Not quite. And then this one, we're going to cut diagonally through all 4 layers at one time. Once, twice. This is when I wish I had one of those. I used to have one of those swivel cutting mats. Don't know what I did with it. Probably left it at a show or whatever. Or it could be around here in a cabinet. And this is going to be our last day doing this project. I redid the blocks after I demoed them on Saturday. I forget what day it is. And I went through and I labeled everything. So now, no confusion. Let's see, I think they're on here someplace. Maybe. This is how you get your foundations. They come rolled up like this. And I don't. I had them here. No, these are all, now I got a mess. I'm just really discombobulated today, if that's such a word. These are the blocks we're going to do. That's these. Here they are. Yay. My other border is done. These are the other two corner borders. But now they're all labeled for which fabric goes where. So that should avoid a lot of confusion. I like to do that if I can. See now this big piece, I don't throw that away. That's pre-shrunk blank foundation. You can use it to make another block. I usually say keep it for repairs if you need them. It's all pre-shrunk. It's going to match, you know, what you have. So we're going to probably do this after we do. This is called Italian mosaic. This is called Italian tile, I believe. Oh no, Italian mosaic. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. This one is Italian Italian tile. They're both based on tile floors I saw in Italy. Okay, this is my 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. I just barely cut. I got to cut the selvage off, and this has quite a wide selvage, so we'll cut that, and then 2 3/4. So I'm cutting 4 at a time. And I'm not going to quite get 1, 2, 3, 12. Not quite. But I already have some done, so. But that's how we cut. The pattern will say cut X amount of strips. Like I say, so wide, and then now we've got 3 strips. There's 1, 2, 3 strips. Oh, and you know, 20. Yeah, see, we only have 40, really 42, maybe 43 inches of usable fabric. And I figured it at 44, so we'll have to adjust. 2 3/4, but you see how fast cutting can go. This is 6 layers. Oh, I know, that's on that seam on the cutting mat. So I'm no longer a really nervous. How long does it take me? You mean to completely make a quilt? That's a good question, because I don't get to work on like one quilt to completion. If you look around in my studio, there is one that we worked on several weeks ago that has not been worked on since. So it's really hard. I have probably 8 or 12 projects all going right now. If you watch Laura on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, she and I had a very long video call this morning talking about how in the world are we going to get all these projects. We've started so many. And I think we both agreed that after doing so many, we will start probably going back to show the finishes of these projects. Like this one, I don't want to bore you guys doing the same old thing 6 days in a row. So I will continue working on it in my extra time. And when I get down to the very end of it, I will probably share it, not even a whole live, just to let you see what it all looks like when it's all put together. But we have, oh my goodness, we just have so many projects going. We went over new ones. We went over renewing old ones, all kinds of neat stuff, trying to keep lots of interest and, you know, a little diversity, different kinds of things. Some, you know, sometimes it's just a matter of doing it with a different fabric. And I can't see the comments here. I'm really liking this one. I really, really am. And I'm wondering if the one Laura's doing with the cave prints, if we can do something similar with it, or if it'll just be too busy. But we also discussed on Saturday about using this border. This border will be a separate, also sold separately. It will be sold this whole. Let me show you the cover someplace here, right here. This is what the finished quilt will look like. So these are the blocks we're gonna try to get made today, or at least a couple, I hope. These, and the corner and the instructions for doing the border to hook the 4 corners up. Actually, it's 8 corners. It's a double border. That is also going to be sold separately without the geese part. And we were talking the other day about how beautiful it would be. I'm going to unplug this. How beautiful it would be to use this border on a panel. You know, I do not like just taking a panel and putting a couple, you know, just plain border strips around it and call it a quilt. Some cases that works. But most of the time I want it to be a little more artistic. So I'm thinking this would be an awesome border, and it's got me enthused to maybe design a few more just border things. We do have a lot of border blocks. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, this is a complete block, the foundations. And what I'm going to do, these are very simple blocks to do. Each block has their part A, B, C, and D. A, B, C, D, E. A and E are the same. They're made identical. B and D are made identical. So after I made my first block and know I have everything just the way I want it, I'm going to cut all the blocks apart. I'm not going to cut them all apart here today, but I'm going to cut a couple so that we can do some chain piecing and see how fast we can get these made. So there's B and D. I'm going to do, I'll do a couple blocks, because then we'll get to see the pattern. We'll just stack like parts together and cut that little bit of extra foundation off. There's the 2 C's. And this is not real accurate trimming here. This is the rough trimming. Okay, and E. So now for A and E, I need to make sure I get the right parts or pieces here. I know there's little triangles. A and E, I need the background, and then D is the magenta, right? Yep. I need these, or these short ones. These. I need those, and I need the big background. Haha, that's it. So I'm just going to bring these over here. It looks so different with this little tiny machine here. And we're going to, I just set these here in front of my machine like that. I'm kind of frazzled today, Denise. It's been a wacko morning. Laura's fine. She just, poor thing, with Donald being down, she's got so much, and she had company, and she has a mess of orders to get out. She was just, I think her company, I don't know if they were there all weekend or what, but okay, so just like always, we're going to take fabric piece number 1. These little triangles are part A, piece 1 and 5. So we're just going to, you know how I usually stack my pieces in order with each piece of foundation? Because we're doing 16 blocks all the same and they're conducive to chain piecing, instead I have there's only 3 pieces, 3 different sizes for the 5 pieces on the foundation. I hope that made sense. Oh, great. Well, thank you. Okay, so let's get started here. These are our leave-in foundations for those of you who are new. They come pre-printed, and your instructions will tell you what size to cut all your pieces, which we just did for all 8 or 16 of the blocks we're going to be using. So we're going to take fabric piece number 1, and we're going to set it with the wrong side facing up. Then we're going to set our foundation on top of it, on top of that piece of fabric. When it's like this, you want to be able to read the printing. It says stitch with this side facing up, fabric underneath. Very important. You want to set it on top of your fabric. This is space 1. This is space 2. You want about 1/4 of an inch of fabric to go past the line between space 1 and space 2. And you can either pin it to hold it in place, or what I like to do is just do a little bit of stitching in the seam allowance to hold it in place, because when I'm done, I'm going to make sure that there's no big stretches where the foundation's not attached to the fabric, and might as well do it now, and then it's done. So, because that corner would not be attached if I didn't do this little bit of stitching. Okay, so there it is, all ready to go, my 1/4 inch of fabric. We're going to turn it over so the right side of the fabric is facing up. And we're going to take fabric piece number 2, and we're going to set right sides together. And on this particular one, you want it to go just a little bit below the broken line, because when we sew, we're going to just sew this short line here, open it up. It's got to cover all the way up to here. So, you know, normally you center your pieces, but on this particular one, I call it an offset. So you just have to go a little bit past that broken line and then turn it over. And this is one I think I'd like to put a pin in it. Back over here to hold it in place. Or you can put it, I forgot, I started doing it like Laura, and it's very nice. Pin it like that to hold it in place. Turn it over, and you're going to sew on the line. And now, if you're new, we use just a regular stitch length. Whatever stitch length you use on your traditional piecing, I need to move my foot pedal over. Whatever size stitch you use for your traditional piecing is fine on here because you're leaving the foundation in. And that way, if you do make a mistake, it's much easier to take 10 to 12 stitches out per inch compared to 22. Okay, and then after you stitch it, oh, I think I'm going to have to move something here. After you stitch it, you want to take it to the pressing mat or ironing board. And I like to set my stitches. And then we're going to open that up and press it. And I don't think my iron's real hot yet. No. We're going to press that nice and flat. And I do use a medium steam setting. And then we're going to take it to our cutting mat here. Cats. Okay. And then we're going to get ready to add piece number 3, which is here. And this is where we're going to sew number 3 on. So we're going to line our straight edge up with that sewing line. And I like to just barely see the line, so when I fold it back, that line is right on the fold. And then we're going to put our add a quarter there and trim away that little bit of extra. So now we have our 1/4 inch seam. Anyway, I'm going to do one and then I'll chain piece the others, but I want you to see how this goes together. Now we're going to take fabric piece number 3, right sides together, edges even. This one is a light going over a dark, so I push it forward just a couple of threads to make sure my magenta fabric won't show through when I open this up after it's stitched. See, you can see that little strip of light fabric there. Bring out the trusty old vintage machines that just sew and sew and sew. Okay, so there we've stitched it. And now we're going to press it. And then we're going to get ready to add piece number 4. Use our add a quarter ruler. And then this piece is a magenta piece. If this is confusing, this right here, these 5 pieces are what we're making right now. I'll tell you when I'm done here on this live, this room is getting cleaned up. It's driving me crazy. I got a couple shipments of fabric in and it's all sitting around here and I just okay, and then that little triangle like we started with goes right here. If you're ever in doubt of how to set a piece, the angled ones are confusing. This is how it's going to end up. This long side right there, that's how it's going to end up. So just set it the way it's going to end up and then just flip it over, right sides together. And you've got it set right. I think Bingo's happy to be in here. She doesn't usually calm down that fast. Okay, so on this one, I have lines sewing all the way out, holding all this together. I'm not real worried about that little corner there, but I don't like this being loose. So I'm just going to do just a few stitches here. It just makes it so much easier when you go to sew, well, when you trim it, and then when you go to sew it to another block, you don't have to worry if you've got it flat. Okay, so now that this is completely covered, this part, I am going to trim around the outside edge. Where's my little ruler? There it is. See this mess? I can't stand working in this mess. Okay, enough about my woes. Okay, a 1/4 inch from the solid line. Our broken lines are pretty consistent I try very hard to make them be a perfect 1/4 inch. But it's just better if you use your ruler and you trim it at a 1/4 inch. I would not put the broken line on here at all, except I want to make sure you have a guide for making sure you get fabric out. So you have the full 1/4 inch seam fabric in your seam allowance. Okay, and well, on these actually I do. It's not a cutting board. Okay, so there we have, that's part A or part E. I didn't even pay attention. This is part A. Part E is going to be exactly the same. So now that we've got that made, we'll set that on top of this block like that. The office, they've got the sheetrock done. He's texturing it when he gets home from work this afternoon. So I get to start painting. I'm the painter on the ranch. So, and then the next thing I got to clean. We did half of the room because we had to take walls out. So we moved a lot of stuff into the other half of the room. So now I've got to start boxing it up or throwing stuff away or whatever I'm going to do with it. And because when I paint, I want to paint the entire room at one time. And then we'll be putting flooring down. So I'm guessing I'll get moved in, yeah, maybe a week or two. I've decided not to be in it such a hurry. I want it done right. So I can keep functioning. It's tough, but I can do it. Okay, so now we're going to chain piece these. I know that long edge is the long edge of that triangle right there. So I'm going to stitch it down. And it's just really only just a matter of just a few stitches. Haven't used this machine in a long time. I have, this is a 1951. I have two 1951s. And the one I use most is my 1935. That's the one that travels to quilt shows with me because it's so pretty. This has the faceplate on this one. It's just the stripes up and down. And there's no chrome on the wheel. Where else was there chrome on the other one? I forget. But when the war came along, they quit even putting faceplates on the machines. A couple years they were just black. Then they went to the straight face. So my 35, of course, has the scrolly plate and the chrome handle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all three of these pieces ready, and then we will chain piece them. You know, and if you want, I'm not a fan of the glue. And if you do use glue, make sure it's one that's going to dissipate as you iron it or steam iron it. When I do use, because I do use glue on my hexies. So I use the 505 because it does, by the time I'm done with a block pressing, it's gone. The glue's gone, so it doesn't make it stiff. Okay, and you want to make sure that you get all of these with the foundation facing up the right way. Although I think on this one, because it's, what's the word? When it doesn't matter, the mirror image is the same. It's just better to be in the habit of always doing it with the right side facing up. Well, okay. Now, let's get going. Right side up, take fabric piece number 2. We're going to put it just like that, right sides together. And flip it over. And we're going to stitch on that line. See, now this is, I like this open toe foot. But this is the one I tried on my other machine, and it didn't hit the feed dog, so it wouldn't feed it through. And then if you go too wide with the toes much wider on the other machines where it will hit the feed dogs, it will bunch your foundation up in the middle. So I don't like that. So So I'm thinking I might just do this setup so I do all my piecing on the vintage machines and just keep the other one for doing quilting if Bob can get the tension going on it. Oh, and you know, I noticed I had this machine at a quilt show a few years ago, quite a few years ago, and a lady in the booth across from me came over and slapped the thread cutter on here. And I forget to use it. Okay, now we'll press all these. I'm excited to move into the new office. I've got 3 new printers that are still in the boxes because I'm not going to unload them or set them up in the old office just to move them. Threads. Oops. Then I'll really be singing here. Okay, so now we're going to trim to add piece number 3. Right there, fill this back. Remember, you never want to cut your foundations. And if you do, that's why I tell you to keep any of the spare blank that comes with, even if it's only an inch or 2 wide. Because if, and this happens in my classes with beginners, a lot of times they'll remember to do this part and they'll forget to do their add a quarter and they'll cut, and they will cut the foundation too. And or they'll forget to fold it back and just put this on here and cut. If they did this, their fabric's fine. This fabric would be fine. You'd have enough, but this would be separated. So what I usually recommend doing is taking a little strip, not this big a strip, and put it on your foundation, and you can either just pin both, put the part you cut off, put it exactly where it belongs. You can either pin it or glue it. That's when I like those, the glue stick, the 505 glue stick, because then you can put this back together and have another piece of foundation to hold it together. And then once you sew it, it's fine. We do all kinds of things like that in class. In the beginner class, you learn how to correct those. Because when you're just starting this, the method isn't natural. You have to think about it. After you do it a little while, it just becomes habit. You don't even think about what you're doing. But in the beginning, and once you make those mistakes, it tends to stick with you, and you don't do it again. And there's always accidents. Geez, a couple weeks ago, I was just working away here, and I went and melted a piece of foundation, and I hadn't done that in ages. When you get the printer set up, will you start filling just pattern orders? Or Laura does all the orders off the website, unless they have fabric. If it's a fabric kit, I send the order out, but she has, we have her with a small, she doesn't have as much equipment as what we have, but she can produce almost everything we can. There's a couple patterns that that she can't yet, but she will be able to soon. Um, but she all the web orders ship from her where she is. So anyway, that's yeah. But my printers are for printing my the instructions and the covers and the supply lists and um, doing signage for shows and all that kind of stuff. So, okay, now we're going to add piece number 3. You know, and if you're working with a light fabric and after you sew it on and you open it up, if the number or the printing shows through, make sure you cut it away. Just use like little embroidery scissors or whatever to clip just the print part away. I think I've had one quilt that I had to do that. Whoops, grab the right piece. I'm just not feeling real coordinated today, I gotta tell you. Look at that. Yay. See, and Denise, you know, I hate threads. That's the only thing I dislike about chain piecing is my threads aren't clipped short, but I end up going back and doing it later. My starting thread. Okay, let's press these open. So we've decided we're going to make a real quick trip to Virginia when we leave the quilt show in Scottsdale. We're going to make a quick trip to Virginia to get all the stuff to Laura for the quilt show she's doing back there. And we're only going to get to stay for about 3 or 4 days because we have to head back. We're both doing shows the same weekend. It's going to be a busy September. Yeah, Laura is crazy busy. I offer to help, but she's so good and organized. Okay, now this time, same stack of magenta, the same size, which is nice. It was easy cutting. In my, well, actually, both of my, I teach a beginning class and an advanced class at several quilt shows. And I always like to show how to speed cut. I call it speed cut. In a lot of my patterns, I do have instructions like to cut X amount of strips, you know, so many inches wide by the width of fabric, then recut, like what I did here. And that's how they'll be in this pattern. My problem is I started having my students pre-cut all their pieces before they come to class so we can get more done. So now I'm thinking I'm gonna do some videos on just cutting, because this is so much more fun to cut for this than it is for traditional piecing. So I'll be doing those videos. I haven't, I got to decide this week what we're going to teach next March in Virginia. Okay. I was kind of thinking it might be more fun to teach a more modern quilt, something like the floating blocks or something. But I don't think it qualifies as an advanced, and I think it's a little too much for a beginner who's never done this. So, and I tried to get into QuiltCon to teach next year, and I was not accepted. My style is not what they are looking for, so that's okay. Take care, Denise. Hopefully we'll see you Saturday, or talk to you Saturday. Okay, and now again this triangle. And remember, place it the way it's going to go when it's done, and then just flip it over. Right sides together. If you're new here, this is excellent for fussy cutting. And you can fussy cut any piece, or for any piece. I might just do, I'm thinking instead of doing a certain project, I might just do some tips and tricks on a live for various things, little tips. And all of our packages come with cutting instructions, so you don't have to guess what size to cut your pieces. When I was paper piecing, that always just made me so angry that they never included sizes to cut your pieces. And if I have to make a sample, which of course I always make 1 or 2 samples before I write the pattern, I have to know what size to cut the pieces. So why do I have to keep it secret? You know, make it easier for you. And because it was a lot of waste, if you, I mean, I know now how to figure for a size, but if you don't do this all the time, you know, and it takes a lot of time to figure it out, and I just figured I could do that. I could put that in the package. So every package has cutting instructions. And I'm just doing a little stitching between the solid line and the broken line to hold that corner of fabric and foundation together. So when I go to sew it, see it's flopping here. When I go to sew it to the next part, I want to make sure that it's laying flat so it doesn't distort the block. So just stitching a little bit just to make sure so I don't have, it's one less thing to have to worry about. Okay, so now these are covered. We're going to trim them 1/4 inch from the solid line. You know, and if there's something you guys want to see, let me know. If there's a project or if there's a method of doing something you want to see how to do it, by all means, send me a message or in the chat here. If you want to send me a message, it's deb@easypiecing.com. You know, like if you want to see something where we do fussy cutting, we can do that. Any of our blocks or anything. And if I don't know, I'll let you know I don't know. And we do have an Easy Piecing chat group on Facebook. You can join that, and that's where we like to share our projects that we do. We love seeing what you guys do. Love seeing your fabric choices. Everybody is so supportive of each other. Hey, you tell Everett I said hello. Grandma loves him. I miss him. I think it's time we teach the boys how to sew. Just enough to take care of themselves. They don't. Grandma doesn't expect them to get into quilting, although I'd love it. There's some pretty awesome male quilters out there. I taught Donald how to run he'll deny it, but I taught him how to run a sewing machine and how to put buttons on a sewing machine. Hey, show him how to use the machine. Show him on the little Janome. If he breaks it, it's no big deal. And it probably be because you can control the speed on that one. So, okay, here's parts. That's 2 C's. Okay, this is parts B and D, and they're the same. Let me put these out of the way. And I think this is when I use this one. Part B and D, fabric A and fabric D, 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. And the other one is this one. Okay, so again, I'm going to just stack my 3 pieces. That's all that's on these. 1, 2, 3. Let me do it over here like this. So we're going to take fabric piece. Oh, good. He's old enough. He can help. That's awesome. Okay, so we're going to set that wrong side of fabric piece number 1. This is the gold metallic is the right side. So there's the wrong side. We're going to put the foundation on top. And we want about 1/4 of an inch of fabric to go past the line up here into space number 2. And now this one is a real long expanse. I am going to run a line of stitching all the way around the 3 sides to this piece. And again, if you didn't want to stitch, you could use a little glue stick. I think this one's so quick, I'm just going to do them up one at a time. Okay, so then we're going to put fabric piece number 2, right sides together, just like that. Turn it over and stitch my threads. Stitch on that line. And then we will press it. And then we'll trim. And then fabric piece number 3. And it's like, when I was making the first block the other day, it was like, this is weird. And then we'll press it. And then I am going to run a little bit of stitching around the outside of this one. You want to make sure you keep it flat. That's good enough. And then again, we're going to trim around the outside edge. Okay, let me cut those little, you don't have to cut these little corners off. It's not a big deal if you don't. Okay, just for the heck of it, let's put this, a part A and a part B together. They're gonna go together like that. Oh, where's my pins? So you want to match that seam right there. And of course you want to match your corners where the two solid lines come together. Perfect. And then we want to match this seam line. Perfect. And I put my pin in right next to the seam. And that's, we'll go down here and match this end right there where those two lines come together with that point right there. There we go. We will stitch that. You want to start all the way out at the end. I have 2 sewing machine feet down here. Keep those edges even. Get your thread out of there. on the line. Oops. Perfect. And I'm pressing, let's see, did I press the seams open? Yes, I did. You have, I know in quilting, one of the first things I learned was you never press your seams open because they say it puts too much stress on the fabric along the seam line. But with your foundations in here, takes a lot of the stress off your fabric. So to alleviate bulk, I press my seams open most of the time. Okay, so there we have that right there so far. Let's get these other two done. They go pretty fast. I should get my glue stick. Oops, yeah, that's the right one. Okay, and this is important that you stitch with the right side facing up. With the right side of the foundation, and you're looking through to the wrong side of your fabric. Oh, it's so nice to look and see nice seams and nice stitching. I can't believe how bad mine got this morning. Oh my goodness. It's fine. I don't know. Okay, fabric piece number 2. And number 3. see, did I put... Okay. My cutting mat has been greatly decreased in size. This is a board I have over top of the hole in the desk where the big machine was. I have what do you call it, the table, the extended table for my featherweight, but it doesn't fit in the same hole. So okay, this is gonna get sewn to this side, part E to part D. We'll do that later. Want to get these other two done so we can get the middle one done. Or actually, let's do the middle one so you can see the whole block go together. This is a C, and this one, where's my part C? We need the background, we need this one, D. Oh, that's a little D, 2 3/4. Oh, that's this one. Okay. 1, 2, 3, and then this background, and then this one again, and this one again. Pretty simple. Move these over. Okay, so number 1 is the background. Gonna set that wrong side facing up, put this on top, about 1/4 inch into space number 2. And I'm gonna stitch around here. Okay, then we have the magenta square. Right sides together. a background square. Well, we're glad you've joined us. Glad you found us. I am on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday from noon to 2 Pacific time. And my daughter-in-law, Laura, is on Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings from 10 till noon. We work on different projects, so you get a little variety. Have a great group of followers. And then another magenta. I have decided I'm going to do a panel using this border, and I have a lot of different horse panels. Since we live in horse country, cowboy country, and I have a lot of fabrics to go with it. So I want to do a math page in the pattern for the border so you can adapt it to any size panel. And give a little class to those panels. People are always talking about what to do with panels. Okay, and this is our last piece, and it's another piece of background fabric. Got to get that in the light, make sure I get my metallic on the right side. I think on Thursday, we're going to do a hexie project, a Halloween hexie project. A little table topper. And it's all done on the machine. So I hope you can join us. That'll be Thursday. Okay. It's getting to be that time of year. Time to get those holiday things done. it would be nice if I had a big enough cutting space here to use the long ruler, but this will work. Okay, let's join this and get this block put together. Okay, we have that one and that one. We have this piece here. Let me move these out of my way before I knock them off and make a really big mess. Keep those together. Okay, we got our 5 parts made here. You can see how this is going to go together. Just like that. So let's do this one. Get my pins back over here. And we want to match the points, the end points. And you want to do that not just because you want it to be the right size, but then the seam line down the other, like we're sewing on this seam line, but when you open it up, you want this seam line, well, that point won't be, but you want the other seam line to all be aligned straight. So that's why you want to match your end points. And let's come down and match our seams here. And this side over here. And our end point. Like that. Okay. So this from one end all the way to the other. If I could find my foot pedal. Make sure we match that good. All right. Press this seam open. Okay, and then we're going to flip that over. And of course we want to match this, the seams here. This side, they go opposite. You know, they nest. It's impossible to do it the other way, you know, to get both of them to nest. You don't get a choice of which direction your seam allowances go when you're paper or foundation piecing. When at all possible, I do alternate them so that they do nest, because it just makes it so much easier. But sometimes it just can't be done. Okie dokie. Keep those edges even. And you can backstitch at the end of these seam lines. Good. Okay, now we're going to join this one to this one. Looks pretty good. Okay. And the end points. On this one, we try to stitch right on the line. I use a 30 weight thread. This cotton thread is 30 weight, and it's the same width. The thread is the same thickness as the line. If you use a finer weight thread, you might see a little bit of the black line. The goal is to, if you use a 30 weight thread, is to not see the black line. That is, as long as you're I want to say as long as you're close. Going down a straight, a long straight line where you're not matching anything, sometimes you get a little wavy. And if you have trouble following a straight line, take this thread out of your machine, put an old needle in, take the bobbin out, and just run, I used binder paper, where you can just take plain paper and draw lines on it to learn to make yourself more confident at following a line. I always found it much easier to follow a line than to make a perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance. Even when you have, I've tried all different kinds of 1/4 inch guides. If you have a guide over here, it's still very easy to push your fabric a little too much into it, and if it starts to curl up, then you're not having a perfect 1/4 inch. I have a foot that has a lip that, goes down, and you can do the same thing. And of course you can veer that way away from it very easily. I just felt that following a line, I was much more accurate. But see, pretty much this whole, there I'm off, where did I, on the camera, you can barely see a little bit of line there. But that's the goal, is to stay on the line. And let's press this open and our block will be done. It's all trimmed already. And it should measure 9 3/4 inches. This should measure 9 3/4 inches. So when you sew your 1/4 inch seam allowance around it, it will finish at 9 1/4. I'm anxious to see what this is going to look like now when we sew this one to this one. Okay, when they're like this, they're both sitting in the same direction. So I'm going to flip this one around 90 degrees, and there you're going to start to see the tile effect. Pretty cool, if I do say so myself. So I'm going to join these two. There's 2 rows of 8 blocks in this particular pattern. Now we need to match this point right here, right on that line. That looks good. Put a pin in it. And the same thing down here. When I'm sewing, I will stop and check, make sure nothing shifts. This one. Oh, that's a gold star. I mean, a piece of gold metallic there. I thought it. And this one. And my corners. See, in this one, maybe it'll make more sense now, why you want to match your corners. Because then when we open it up, we want this seam line here to just continue straight on. Okay. Let's sew these two together. Find my foot pedal. Oops. Hunker down here. Yay! Okay, and I'm going to press the seam open as well to alleviate. We've got quite a few seams along this seam line that come together, so we'll just press it open. And yes, that steam you hear. I just feel like I get a flatter seam. So now you've seen us make the tile and the mosaic blocks, and that will go above, up. There's another border strip that goes on top or all the way around the outside of this, and then there will be a row of 8 of these blocks. This is these blocks we just made are the blocks that go across here and down here. So I have this border to put on this section here. What you see up on the wall is this, and then I have this blue, the blue border, and then we'll add those 8 blocks. Then we have another border around that. I believe these are all like 2-inch, finish at 2-inch. And then we have another border set, and it's done exactly the same as this. These corner blocks are done the same. The color placement is different. The foundations will indicate for this also, color placement. And I think that's it. This pattern will be available. This center pattern is available now. This border pattern will be 2 ways. It will come with this as a center, so you'll get exactly what you see here on my design wall. And then we're going to separately do the border, because you can make this border, it doesn't have to be this big. It will work with a panel. I'm going to be doing that and showing you that next week. I'll show the conclusion of this one that we're working on, and I will show you what I do with a panel and to give you some ideas. But on Thursday, we're going to be working on a hexie table topper, and they're 2-inch hexies. Really easy to sew on the sewing machine, made from 1 charm pack. So a very inexpensive item to make for Halloween. We'll be doing that on Thursday. So I think we're going to call this a day. I don't want to bore you making the same blocks over and over. You've seen how they're done, how they come out. I think they look pretty cool. Yep, this is the border. It's a 6.5-inch strip and then 3 2-inch strips to make a 10.5-inch border. The corner blocks, obviously, 10.5 inches. And that's it. That's it for today. I'm so glad that you joined me. Don't forget, I am on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, noon to 2 West Coast time. Laura is on 10 to noon Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, East Coast time. And we would love to have you join us. And like I say, if you have any questions or want to see something specific, send me a message or let me know on the chat. and while we're on here, and I will be happy to answer your questions or do a sample for you or whatever. So until Thursday, I'm having trouble remembering what day it is. Until Thursday, have a great rest of your day, and good Wednesday, and we will see you on Thursday. Take care, everybody. Thanks.